He didn't expect that day to be different from any other. Life had become a routine for him: work, silence, a meal alone, and then home again. He was used to the quiet. He had convinced himself that eating alone was normal, that sitting across from an empty chair was just another part of adulthood. But somewhere inside, a small part of him wished for a moment of human warmth, something genuine, something that reminded him the world still held kindness. He walked into the small restaurant, the kind where people came not for fancy decor or expensive food, but for a sense of comfort. He ordered his usual meal and chose a table near the window, where he could watch the world pass by. The room buzzed with conversations, families sharing stories, kids laughing, and couples talking about their days. He listened without really listening, a quiet observer of other people's happiness. As he sat down with his tray, he noticed a woman standing near the entrance. She wasn't staring at the menu or looking for a table. Instead, she was holding the hand of a small boy who clung to her side as if the world outside was too big for him. The woman looked tired, more than tired. Her face carried the weight of silent battles she had fought long before stepping into that restaurant. Her clothes were simple, her hair pulled back without much effort, and her eyes held a mixture of worry and hesitation. She scanned the room, not for a place to sit, but for someone she could approach without fear. Someone who wouldn't judge her. Someone who might understand. For a moment, her eyes met his. He looked away instinctively, not because he was avoiding her, but because he wasn't used to being noticed. But when he looked back, she was still watching him, gently, as if trying to gather the courage to walk over. And then she did. Her steps were slow, almost apologetic. The boy followed, looking down, his small fingers gripping her hand tightly. As they reached his table, he felt a strange tension in the air, one that made his heart beat a little faster. "Excuse me," the woman said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry to bother you." He nodded politely, not knowing what to expect. "My son, he's hungry," she said, her eyes dropping to the floor. "We don't have anywhere to sit. I was wondering if we could stay here for a little while. Just so he can eat in peace." The boy tugged on her sleeve, looking up at her with a mixture of hunger and innocence. His eyes held that unmistakable glow children have when they're trying to be brave for their parents. At that moment, everything inside the man shifted. Her request wasn't dramatic. She wasn't asking for money, pity, or attention. She only wanted a safe place for her child to sit and eat. A moment of dignity. A moment of normalcy. He looked at the boy, then at the mother, and felt something warm rise in his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. "Of course," he said gently. "Please, sit down." The mother let out a breath she had been holding. Not a sigh of relief, but a quiet release of fear. She guided her son into the seat across from him, the seat that had been empty for so long. And when she sat down beside him, she gave the man a small, grateful smile that said more than words ever could. The boy placed a small paper bag on the table. That was when the man realized they hadn't ordered anything from the restaurant. Inside the bag was a simple sandwich, something homemade, something small. Something that spoke of struggle. The child unwrapped it slowly, savoring every movement as if he didn't want the moment to end too soon. His mother watched him closely, her eyes soft, her smile sad but full of love. The man noticed she wasn't eating. He asked her quietly, "Aren't you hungry?" She shook her head quickly. "I'm fine." He needs it more. But he could see the truth in her eyes, she was starving. Not just for food, but for a break. For help. For kindness. Without saying a word, he stood up and walked to the counter. He ordered 2 meals, one for the boy, and one for his mother. When he returned with the tray, she looked at him in shock, her lips parting as if she wanted to protest but couldn't find the strength. "I thought maybe you could use something warm," he said softly. Her eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink away. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "I know," he replied. "But I wanted to." The boy's face lit up like he had just been handed the greatest gift in the world. He ate the warm food slowly, savoring every bite as if he was trying to memorize the taste. The mother ate quietly, with gratitude so deep it didn't need to be spoken. As they ate, the man listened. Not to the noise of the restaurant, but to the sound of healing happening right in front of him. He watched how the mother touched her son's hair gently, how she whispered to him, how she made sure he had enough even after she finally allowed herself a few bites. He realized something then: kindness didn't always need to be loud. Sometimes, it was a quiet moment shared between strangers. Sometimes, it was a simple request made by a mother trying to care for her child. Sometimes, it was an empty chair becoming a place of comfort. The woman eventually spoke again, her voice shaky but sincere. She told him they had been struggling for months. She had lost her job. She was trying to protect her son from the storm they were living in. She said she felt ashamed even asking to share his table, but she had run out of options. The man listened without judgment. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer advice. He simply heard her, really heard her. And sometimes, that's the greatest form of kindness a person can give. When they were done eating, the boy wiped his hands on a napkin and looked up at the man with wide, thankful eyes. "Thank you for letting us sit with you," he said shyly. "My mom says angels don't always have wings, maybe she's right." The man felt something tighten in his chest, a mix of emotion he couldn't name. That small voice, filled with innocence and truth, melted every wall he had built around himself. The woman stood up and extended her hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "You have no idea what this meant to us." He shook her hand gently. "I'm glad you came," he replied. "Really." As they walked away, the restaurant suddenly felt different. The chair across from him wasn't just an empty seat anymore, it was a memory. A reminder that small moments can change people. That kindness matters. That even a quiet encounter can warm a lonely heart. He left the restaurant that day not just with a meal finished, but with a renewed sense of humanity. He realized he hadn't been eating alone after all. He had been waiting for a moment that would remind him why compassion exists. And somewhere outside, a mother held her son's hand a little tighter, whispering to him that good people still walk this world. That sometimes, hope appears in the form of a stranger sitting alone at a table. And he knew, deep inside, he would never forget the day a quiet mother approached him, and her simple request melted his heart.